The year is 2010. You've been playing Mass Effect 2 for quite some time, enjoying it quite a bit. You find Conrad Werner on Ilium. He references that time you pointed a gun in his face in Mass Effect 1. You think about it for a second, remembering that you never did that. Confused, you take to the internet to voice your concerns like any rational, well-adjusted human being does. Turns out, it's a bug. It's supposed to be flagged in the opposite way if you didn't point the gun in his face. Oh, wait, it's not 2010. It's 2021. Assuming many of you have played Mass Effect since their original releases, you'd know that there's a lot of little bugs and glitches here and there that crop up all over. Some of them are not so noticeable, but then there's a few that are kind of like little oversights here and there that kind of take you out of it for a bit. They leave you confused. So the community went to work, and now there's a community patch for Legendary Edition. It fixes a lot of these small bugs, and you may want to check it out if you're still playing Mass Effect Legendary Edition on PC, or you're going to be playing it, or you're going to be playing it from time to time. Essentially, you can think of it as like a successor to Mass Effect 1 Recalibrated. And if you're not familiar with that, it has similar mission of fixing those small inconsistencies and annoying bugs while leaving as much of the game as is for other mods. They even have a file interdependency list in order to notify you if you're using other mods so you can adjust compatibility settings. It's also worth noting, if you are experiencing glitches on your end or small bugs that probably won't be fixed on PC, there's a thread over on GitHub where the community is currently debating and discussing the very small bugs and fixes. So this is going to be an ongoing process, and I think at some point they're probably going to get around to doing other community patches for the other Mass Effect games. I know what you're thinking, Ryan, shut the f up. What is a fix? What is a fix? Stop talking about what nonsense. I don't care. Let's start with the miscellaneous fixes that they make or they start addressing. The metagel button is no longer clickable when the command HUD is closed, fixing an issue where metagel would be applied at random in combat. Citadel counselors are referred to as Counselor Tavos in subtitles to be consistent across the trilogy. The twinkling on the galaxy map indicating a point of interest in asteroid belts has been restored. Having that fixed, I think, is probably going to be a big plus for some people, and I know the point of this mod is not to make major changes, more just general bug fixes and stuff like that, as we're going to get into, but I would like to see a mod, if one does not already exist, of them adding like the percentage meter per system, similar to Mass Effect 2 and 3, to let you know that you found everything. It seems like it would be very easy fix or addition, so that is something I find a bit perplexing that they didn't just add in with the Legendary Edition, as it seems a very easy quality of life enhancement. But look, I don't make games or mods. I just enjoy them, and then I talk about them to you, my loving fans or audience. Various mercenaries and pirates across many UNC worlds and Noveria no longer wear pink and white visors, instead wearing visors that match their armor sets. This one I'm gonna say I probably didn't notice, but if I did, I don't remember it. But it definitely does happen. There was actually an image attached to this one I noticed, so you can see here the pink little accents and visor on the mercenary here. It's a bit odd looking though, I have to say, but listen, I really respect the fashion sense here. So it's kind of a shame to let that one go for numerous other bug fixes, but I guess it's alright. I guess you can't win them all. This isn't Fashion Effect, of course. Now we're going to talk about the Normandy specific bug fixes here. Fixed Normandy music not playing after mission debriefs. Caden will not refer to the player as a biotic if they are not. Now this is where it gets a bit weird. We start getting into one of those like easily missable mistakes and dialogue triggers, I think, because we're going to start getting into it as we go on, how there's like those little throwaway lines of characters either mischaracterizing your character class or background or what kind of character choices that you're making throughout missions. They're all over the game. I already foresee the comment here is going to be something along the lines of that it's sloppy and that they shouldn't have missed that again. Personally, I would say for me, I can understand them being in the original releases at least. It sucks, but you can foresee that scenario where maybe after these small things were missed after release, they just didn't go back to it. But in Legendary Edition, it's hard to not be like, come on, bro. It's obviously not a deal breaker for me by any sense of the imagination. I recognize overall that these are just small little annoyances, but that's what we're all about here, folks. That's what we're talking about. This whole video is about bitching and moaning. Ashley's post-confrontation dialogue, if Liara was chosen, will now be properly triggered. You can now choose the police option from all investigate branches in Ashley's conversation about her younger sister. Choosing the renegade option, you are wrong, will now properly end Liara's romance. For those who don't know, there's such a thing as being ninja-manced in Mass Effect. It describes a scenario in which, despite your best efforts, you have accidentally romanced a character you did not mean to, or, as I like to think of it, you didn't romance them by mistake. They romanced you. This has the makings of a creepypasta. In the original Mass Effect game, some believed that romances were just an option for the player to pursue, but what you don't know is that BioWare years ago conceived of an advanced artificial intelligence, rendering certain characters in the original game capable of free will and complex thought. The AI frequently would become infatuated with the player and fall in love with them, and without player input, romance them. Kind of a deep cut reference to every copy of Mario 64's personalized creepypasta. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just go and look it up. Admiral Hackett will correctly refer to Shepard's reputation when introducing the Major Kyle mission. Subtitles in Ashley's conversations, mission debriefs, and the confrontation will follow the spoken phrases fixes ported from Mass Effect 1 Recalibrated. And that's a lot of little fixes for the Normandy segments, and what I would say is that some of the stuff you probably won't notice unless you've played the game numerous times and noticed all the little inconsistencies and glitches here and there. And if you did, it does end up adding up to a lot of like little small issues that can be kind of annoying, so I do get it. But now we're going to move on to the fixes it makes that are Citadel specific, and this is where we're going to get into a bit of what I mentioned before with the fixes here in regards to things that you probably would have assumed were going to be fixed in the Legendary Edition, but they weren't. Conrad Werner's mission will now properly set up the flags for import into Legendary Edition 2, whether charmed, intimidated, or killed. This requires fixing in Legendary Edition 2 as well. Now this is what I was referencing earlier. Conrad Werner is one of the biggest examples of this. In Mass Effect 1, you can end the quest with him by either letting him down gently or pointing a gun in his face. The problem here is that players would let him down gently, but then come Mass Effect 2, when you find him on Ilium, he would be there accusing the commander of pointing a gun in his face regardless, which upon some investigation, you find that the flag for that choice is bugged. So it imports into 2 as the gun in his face no matter what. BioWare never fixed this bug, and the only way that I know to get around it in the original, beyond downloading a patch or fixing it yourself, kind of like by going into the files, is to edit your Mass Effect save in a save editor and change it yourself so the proper flag is checked off upon import. Again, it's just one of those things where, at least in the original, you can kind of let it slide because they were still figuring things out with the choices importing in between games, and in 3 they do kind of address it and rectify it, but you'd think that in the Legendary Edition, BioWare would have fixed this, and I was surprised that they hadn't. It's worth noting that this needs fixing in Mass Effect 2 as well still, so it's not entirely remedied with this patch just yet, unless you save edit and just fix it yourself, which I assume you can still do, and I haven't toyed with that in a really long time. That's just something that I used to do on my 360 where I would like create ideal saves to import into Mass Effect 2, but it's been a long time since I've done that, so I can't endorse that strategy overall, but you can try it if it's annoying you that much. Really quick, I'm going to rattle off some of the other little fixes in the patch here. Elevator news report on UNC besieged base now correctly reports on whether the hostages were killed. Citadel, Rita's sister, can no longer end prematurely by speaking to Rita. Citadel snap inspection now shows up properly in the journal. Citadel, Presidium Prophet can no longer be failed by leaving the area before finishing the quest. Joker's size is an everything line in the Citadel intro cutscene now obeys the player's subtitle setting. As I've said many times, these are just small little inconsistencies all throughout and are very minimal in the grand scheme of things. Audio not triggering properly or the right prompts coming up depending on your choices, little visual bugs and subtitles popping up where they should be. Now the goal here by the community is to not overhaul the game or do major changes, just to fix little oversights, because they want to leave the game as open as possible for modders to go and do their thing. Now, looking at all of this the way we are, it makes it seem like, it was kind of sloppy, weren't they? They were sloppy. Now, I would venture to say that most games, if you really got down to it and combed through all of the bugs, you'd probably see similar issues all over, or at least a number of bugs or things that the devs missed. As to why some of these bugs have persisted from the original release to the Legendary Edition, that's perplexing, of course, but I'm just saying in like original release, you'd probably find these bugs or little issues here and there in any game if you did really dig deep into it. You can see that there's tons of other little fixes for the other worlds and planets you travel to in the game, from quests getting stuck in your journal if you do some of the missions in a certain way, mainly on like Novaria with the Garage Pass quest, or squad banter cutting out as you go in and out of areas, or visual effects and camera cuts in weird places. I almost forgot how to say weird. And there's more edits to some of the Uncharted worlds you can see. I'm gonna talk about just a couple of them here and there that I found notable. Dead Scientist Corporal Toombs no longer thinks the player was always on a cruise if you persuade him. This I just noticed the last time I played on PlayStation. Toombs is holding scientists hostage that he believes are responsible for his psychological trauma, as well as the death of everyone else on his team, and Shepard will be talking to him and talking him down. And Toombs, regardless of the player's background, will always mention that the player was on a cruise, even though the only background where the player was on a cruise is the sole survivor background. Now, if we go to the description of the sole survivor background, it says, sole survivors begin the game with both bonus Paragon and Renegade points and have special dialogue in UNC Dead Scientist assignment.
Don't tell me who I am. You got away with a few scratches and a scary reputation. The rest of the unit died, and I was tortured for years, Shepard. You can't judge me. You don't have the right.
Toombs, if I could have helped you on a cruise, I would have.
The game thinks that you had that background no matter what, and it's a very blink and you'll miss it type of moment. It isn't going to be a deal breaker, as I continue to say throughout this video, but for me at least, right, Mass Effect 1 is my most played Mass Effect game, and it just dawned on me that this was happening just recently in my most recent run of the game. You can say, Ryan, you're an idiot for not noticing this sooner, but I just noticed it now, so it's probably not going to bother a lot of people. So if you are on PC, as I said at the top of this video, you may want to check this community patch out. None of this is, in my opinion, overly egregious to the point where I'm never going to play Legendary Edition on console again, and I'm just going to use the community patch on PC. But even so, I think, again, if you are on PC, you might want to look into this. It'll make your Legendary Edition playthroughs just a bit more polished, or at least consistent throughout your playthroughs. And I know the wisdom out there is going to be that this is sloppy and they should have fixed some of this stuff. And I do agree in part. I'm not trying to defend them. It's not the end of the world though, but I do think you should have this information available, as it does fix a lot of the things that they shouldn't have missed. All this down below in the video description if you want to check it out for yourself. So if you did get this far, well, that was very nice of you, but given that everything is down below, you kind of wasted your time, dude. Obviously that was a joke. Thank you. Anyway, folks, I do hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did enough, consider subscribing for more content like this. And if you didn't, well, fuck you. Again, I'm kidding. Like the video if you liked it, and dislike it if you didn't. Comment down below with your thoughts if you want. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch, all in the description below, and I'll talk to you all soon. I love you all. Maybe. No. Maybe.